He only stopped you because the one was under his mother. The reason for assailed by the same pressure as the thugs. His vision went blurry, and he fell to his knees. Hajime stepped forward, and the thugs realized too late that they picked a fight with the wrong guy. They hurriedly tried to apologize, but the pressure on them was so strong that they couldn't even open their mouths. They fell to the ground, struggling futilely to move. Hajime didn't feel like listening to their bleeding any longer. Anyone who stared at Miyu deserved a fate worse than death. Hajime eased the pressure enough that they could struggle to their knees. Then, he went to each one and shot them in the balls. Koki and the others were so shocked by his ruthlessness that they backpedaled away from him. The guys all covered their crotches in sympathy. Once he was done, Yue and the others walked up to him. No mercies, always. I was right to make you my master. I may not be a man, but even I was watching that.
You look even madder than usual this time. You're really too overprotective of Miyu. You know that?
That wasn't the only reason. He was mad for our sake, too.
And does that include me, too? Oh, Hajime-san. But thanks.
You always see right through me, Yue. Yeah, because I'm always watching you. Yue. In the end, the usual pattern of the two of them flirting, Shay breaking it up, Miyu trying to get Hajime's attention, and Tio getting herself beat up for something stupid happened again. Whenever Hajime was around, the dynamic between the five of them always ended up like that. Kaori watched the spectacle from the sidelines. That scene earlier had firmly impressed onto her that Hajime didn't hesitate to resort to violence. At a glance, it seemed as if his old kindness had all but vanished. But when Kaori thought about the reasons behind his actions, she saw things from a different perspective. He'd done it to protect the smiling girls around him. Was it possible for a truly unkind person to be surrounded by such smiles? Even that little girl adored Hajime like a father. Besides, wasn't the reason Hajime had come back in the first place so that he could let Kaori know he was alive? She'd been too shocked by his transformation to notice at the time, but he'd come back thinking of her. Plus, even if he'd come mainly for her, he still hadn't abandoned the other students. He'd saved Mel's life too, using his valuable medicine. And so, after watching them for a while, Kaori finally realized the truth. The reason Hajime didn't hesitate to use violence was because he knew he needed it to protect the things important to him. Naturally, his own life was included in that. But it wasn't the only thing that mattered. The girl smiling next to him were proof of that. For the first time, Kaori tried to think about what he must have gone through. His hair had turned white. He lost his right eye and left arm. There was no doubt that he must have suffered more than she could have ever imagined. This body and soul must have been pushed close to the breaking point many times. In fact, they may have been pushed past that. This new him was likely a result of that. Still, despite everything that had happened to him, Hajime was able to make others smile. The fog that had settled around Kaori's heart lifted. Everything began to click. She couldn't believe she'd been so blind. The man standing in front of her was Hajime. He was the very same Hajime she'd fallen in love with. The boy who'd been berated as worthless and cast into the abyss, only to crawl out with his own strength to come back and save her. Sure, some of them had changed, but just as much of them hadn't, and that was only natural. All people changed with new experiences and new meanings. What reason did she have to be afraid of him? What reason did she have to lose faith in him? Most of all, what reason did she have to lose faith in her own judgment? If there was a new side that she didn't know, she just had to spend time with it and get to know it. Had she
someday might come by it.
There was no way she was going to leave Yue in the depths of her feelings for her. She'd be part of that smiling group too. She wouldn't let Yue laugh at her any longer. Determination welled up within Kaori. Shizuku smiled as she saw the resolve in her best friend's eyes. Kaori straightened her back, then nodded gratefully to Shizuku. It was time for her to step forward into a new battlefield, a battlefield of love. Hajime looked back and spotted Kaori coming toward him. He thought she was simply coming to see him off, but Yue stared at her warily. Shay watched on with great interest, while Tio mused her thoughts. His companion's reactions alerted Hajime to the fact that this was no mere send-off. He suddenly had a bad feeling about the whole situation.
Hajime-kun, can I also join your party?
Well, shall we?
No matter what you say, thanks for having me.
What? By the following of voice, he started with a request, but a demand. For a moment, he wasn't sure how to respond. Yue stepped forward, answering the request. You don't have to run.
Why not? You have to learn Hajime to enjoy it. Besides, my feelings are worse than anyone.
Kaori just called him to the ground. The children still set it down. He started separating internal blades between them. Yue realized Kaori would probably be the strongest arm she ever faced. She put the whole thing into Kaori's eyes. After a few seconds, Kaori turned away, but the determination was still there.
Come on, what's this? This is not good enough.
It was finally time to say the word she wanted to.
Cut that out.
You have what it takes to be a ninja. She'd already decided on her course of action.
I know. It's you I saw, right?
Yeah, so...
But that's not a reason to refuse to let me come with you.
What?
After all, Shake-san and Tio-san are in love with you too. Shake-san especially, it seems. Am I wrong?
That's...
They know you're in love with someone else, but you still let them join you. So tell me, why is it any different here? After all, my feelings for you are stronger than anyone else's.
Kaori looked back at Yue as she said that, the fire burning bright in her eyes. She wouldn't let Yue laugh at her any longer. This was her declaration of war. She would steal the spot of Hajime's most beloved person for herself. Yue's lips curled up into a rare smile. It seemed Kaori would be a worthy rival after all. Fine, you can come. I'll show you just how huge the gap is between us.
My name's not you! Call me Kaori!
Then you can just call me Yue. I'll accept your challenge, Kaori.
Very well, Yue. Don't come crying to me when you lose, though.
The two of them were lost in their own world. Even though he was the one who'd been confessed to, Hajime felt as if he was suddenly left out. The decision to let her join had been made without even consulting her. Yue and Shay hugged each other and truthfully watched the two girls open and figure it out.
Hajime-san, is there something wrong with my eyes? I can see dark thunderclouds forming behind Yui-san. There's a dragon there, too.
Yeah, you see me right. I'm pretty sure there's a sort of living being sort of up to Shay soccer too.
Don't scare me.
Sadly, the resident hero was no longer man, and as always, those who felt the need to interject. Wait, I don't understand. Are you not Nagano? You're going to go with us? What? What's happening? Where did all this come from? Nagano, what did you do to Kaori? Let's go with you. Those who continue to accept the Kaori possibly like Hajime. Then something was. This seemed to come out of nowhere. None of Hajime assumed Hajime must have done something to her. Nagano was amazed how through this portion of the he noticed his dad, but this was on an entirely different level. He was about to pull his foot out, and she stopped him. She left his fingers in exasperation and tried to explain to him the real person of understanding. Suppose you would ask him to do something to do something. Think about it calmly. You know that he doesn't legacy. But Kaori's been in love with Hajime for a long time. Since we were in Japan, in fact.
Just like old
Why do you
times.
think she always talked to him? Shizuku, what do you say? That's just because Kaori's kind. She just felt that because Nagamo was always alone, right? How could she possibly have been in love with that lazy, uncooperative otaku? While Hajime couldn't deny any of those allegations, they were still annoying to hear. Noticing the commotion, Kaori finally broke eye contact with Yue. She turned to face her fellow classmates. It was best if they heard it from her own mouth.
Kaori-kun, everyone, I'm sorry. I know it's selfish for me to leave like this, but I want to go with Hajime-kun, so I'll be leaving your party. I'm truly sorry.
She bowed. Suzu, Eri, Suji, and Yoshino all cheered her on. They'd realized for a while now, and they had no problem with it. Nagayama, Indo, and Nomura had all known for a while too. While it was regretful she'd be leaving them, it wasn't unexpected, so they sent her off with smiles. However, Koki still refused to accept it. You're joking, right? This doesn't make any sense. You've always been with me, Kaori. Why would you want to leave now? You're my childhood friend, so you have to stay with me. Isn't that right?
Kaori-kun, we might be childhood friends, but that's no reason for me to stay with you all the time. I'm not sure why you think that's even a factor, really.
Give it up, Koki. Kaori isn't your possession, and it isn't for you to decide what she does with her life. After being ganged up on by the two girls, Koki finally fell silent. He turned to face Hajime. He wasn't even paying attention to them. He was busy dealing with the rest of the girls in his harem. Koki's eyes narrowed in anger. The thought of Kaori joining that harem filled him with jealousy. It was a feeling he'd never experienced before. He tried one last-ditch attempt to convince Kaori to give up. Kaori, you can't go with Nagano. I'm saying this for your own good. Look at him. He has girls all around him. And he's even got a daughter now. Worst of all, he's put a slave collar on that rabbit girl. And that black-haired girl called Nagano her master earlier. He's probably forcing them to come with him. Nagano probably thinks girls are looking more than options to add to his collection. He's smart.
Look at how easily he kills people. And even though he's so strong, he's refusing to help us, his comrades. Going with him will only bring you misfortune. It's better if you stay with us. No, I'll make sure you stay with us. Even if you're looking for it, it's for your own good. I won't let you go, no matter what.
The other students stood up looking in shock. They never seen him act like this. Still, now that he got himself fired up, it was too late to stop him. He should have put the other girls around Hajime. He started rushing them as well.
You girls as well. You should stay with us. Come with me. Our party would love to have people as strong as you. We can save the human race together. You said your name was Shay, right? Don't worry. If you come with me, I'll free you right away. We don't keep slaves here. You too, Tio. You won't have to call Nagumo your master any longer.
He flashed them his most handsome smile and held out his hand. Shizuku just slapped her forehead and stared at the sky, while Kaori was so dumbfounded she couldn't speak. Yue, Shay, and Tio just stared at Kooki. There were no words that could express their feelings. They awkwardly turned away from Kooki and rubbed their arms. Upon closer inspection, one could see there were goosebumps all over them. Kooki's statement had been so sickeningly off the mark that it had mentally scarred them.
This is not the kind of pain I like.
Tio muttered softly to herself. Seeing them clearly ignoring his invitation, Kooki's smile stiffened. Not only were they unwilling to meet his gaze, they'd even retreated behind Hajime for safety. Kooki's shock slowly transformed into anger. He recklessly drew his sword and glared at Hajime before thrusting it into the ground. He pointed at Hajime and declared his intent for all to hear.
Hajime Nagumo, duel me, no weapons. If I win, you have to promise to never get near Kaori ever again, and to release those girls you're holding captive.
Oh god, this is so cringe, I can't watch this anymore.
Stop mumbling! Are you a man or not?
The reason he challenged Hajime to a bare-handed duel was because he knew his sword could never match up to Hajime's guns. Yue, Shay, Tio, and even Kaori stepped away from Kooki. His actions had done nothing to impress them. Still, Kooki had convinced himself of the righteousness of his cause. He fully believed he was saving his childhood friend, as well as those poor girls from Hajime's clutches. His jealousy, combined with his straightforward attitude, had mixed together to form a disastrous combination. There was no going back for him now, and so, without even waiting for Hajime's reply, he charged. Sighing, Hajime took a few steps back. Thinking he was scared to fight barehanded, Kooki doubled down and charged faster. He was just a few steps away now. Hajime's arms were still at his side, and he hadn't taken any kind of stance. Certain of his victory, Kooki threw a punch with all the momentum of his run-up behind it. Just then,
Ah!
Kooki vanished, or rather, he fell. But he fell so fast it looked as if he disappeared. He'd fallen into a pitfall. When Hajime had taken his first steps back, he transmuted a pitfall where he'd been standing. He'd infused his shoes with the same transmutation magic circles on his gloves, which was why he hadn't needed to bend down. Once Kooki fell through, Hajime transmuted the floor back to its original shape. A muffled explosion shook the earth. As an afterthought, Hajime had chucked a flashbang grenade, a tear gas grenade, a noise grenade, and a paralysis grenade down the hole as well. Nothing fatal, obviously. Chances were, Kooki had been hit with them all as he was trying to claw his way out of the hole. Each of his senses had been momentarily destroyed, and the paralysis grenade prevented him from even writhing around in pain. Hajime then transmuted a small breathing hole near his head, so he didn't suffocate to death. All of this he'd done so fast it looked like he hadn't moved at all. To the onlookers, it seemed as if Kooki had fallen of his own accord. In a way, it seemed almost pitiable. Hey, Yagashi, he's still alive, so you can dig him up later if you want.
There's a lot I want to say about what just happened, but okay.
Even when they'd been in Japan, it had been an implicit rule that Shizuku had to clean up after Kooki and do as far as nurses. Shizuku sighed, lamenting the job she'd been saddled with. Finally, Hajime was ready to depart for Lyon, only to be interrupted again, this time by Hayama. According to him, their party wouldn't last without Kaori's support. He was apparently worried there might be casualties if she left, so he also tried to convince her to stay. He argued his case passionately, Everything he'd been working for was about to slip through his fingers, and his expression made it clear that was what he was really thinking. Hayama and his gang knew Kaori was too stubborn to change her mind, so they instead focused on Hajime. They pleaded with him to rejoin the group, spouting bullshit like, "We're sorry for what we did in the past, so please come back." Everyone, including the other students, knew Hayama wasn't one bit sorry for
Do not
what
hold
he did.
back.
Even they found it
Now,
disgusting that
taste my
they
own Neo-Magic.
Hajime looked at Hayama happily for the first time after he'd seen him again. They even abandoned him in times that hadn't been there before. The fact that the power meeting had really damaged him.
Oh, not too bad.
Hey, Hayama, have you gotten better at using fire magic? What are you talking about? I'm part of the bingo. You only have to have a team with your kids. It's not. Why did you have it anyway? You must not fire a lot. Fire magic. And you're destroying you. His reaction always confirmed Hajime suspicion. Perturbed by how distraught seemed that always was, Hajime could guess his motives too. Hajime was amazed Hayama hadn't assaulted her already. At this point, he really didn't care about getting revenge anymore. If Hayama insisted on making himself Hajime's enemy, he'd kill Hayama without hesitation. Otherwise, though, Hajime would just leave him alone. To Hajime, Hayama wasn't even worth the trouble killing him would bring. Hayama's very existence itself was worth less than nothing in his mind. Hajime distanced himself from Hayama and addressed him, along with the rest of his group. I don't want your apologies, and I don't care about what happened in the past. As far as I'm concerned, you guys are worthless. The same goes for anything you have to say. If you understand, then get out of my sight. You're all eyesores.
Are you listening?
Kondo and the others bristled at Hajime's attitude, but Hayama understood what was behind that knowing grin of his. He nodded silently, then told his cronies to back down. Hayama knew that Hajime knew. If he wanted to stay alive, his only option was to obey Hajime's commands. Kondo and the others were surprised by Hayama's uncharacteristic obedience, but his serious tone brooked no argument, so they reluctantly gave up on persuading Hajime. At last, there was nothing else to take care of. Kaori had gone back to grab her things from the inn, which was the last thing Hajime was waiting on before he left. Hayama and others had offered to go with her, but Hajime had put a stop to that. While Ryotaro was digging Kouki out, Shizuku walked up to Hajime. Sorry for everything. Also, thanks again, both for saving us and for coming to see Kaori. Hajime chuckled to himself. She tilted her head in confusion. What's so funny? Shizuku asked. Oh, sorry, it just feels like you haven't changed at all. Even when we were in Japan, you'd always be coming up to me to apologize and say thanks. And now you're doing the same thing here. You should really look after yourself more, too, or those wrinkles on your forehead will become permanent. I can take care of myself, thank you very much. Anyway, you seem to have changed quite a bit yourself. I can't imagine the old you having so many girls hanging around him. And a daughter to boot. I'm only in love with one of them, though. I know it's not the place to say this, and I know it's selfish of me to ask, but try to look after Kaori too, okay? Please. Hajime had no reply. Seeing as he had no intention of returning her feelings, he honestly didn't even want to bring her along. Yue had made the decision regardless, of course. He couldn't fathom why his girlfriend, of all people, was okay with all these other girls openly vying for his affection. Still, he put those thoughts to the side and looked off into the distance. Realizing he was trying to ignore her, Shizuku pulled out her trump card. She wasn't going to hand her best friend over to Hajime without some guarantees. You better promise me, or else I'll make life miserable for you. Miserable? How would you? What do you think of Alabaster Executioner? Huh?
Or wait, how about something more overt? Devastator, Lord of all destruction, maybe.
Wait a second, what are you?
I've got more. How about Obsidian Tyrant, or the Crimson Thunder Synergist?
Don't tell me you...
At first, Hajime had been confused by the barrage of strange titles, but Shizuku's planning became evident soon enough. He paled in response. You know, I'm one of Aangit's chosen warriors, and a member of the hero party. If I wanted to make certain nicknames popular around the world, I could. With my influence, they'd spread like wildfire. So, Nagamoku, which do you prefer? The way he looks made it real easy to think of with quite a few. I get the feeling they'd stick too.
Wait, please wait. How do you even know about every otaku's greatest weakness?
Quality dragged me around everywhere when she was trying to learn more about you. She spent a lot of time watching anime and reading manga so she had things to talk about with me, and I got roped into doing it with her, so I'd say I'm pretty knowledgeable about these things. I believe in Japan they call people like you Chewy.
Stop, please stop.
Oh my, it looks like it's even more effective than I thought. You're surprisingly self-conscious.
You damn demon.
Hajime fell to his knees, shivering in fear. His dark middle school past was coming back to haunt him. All the memories he'd sealed away flooded through his mind. So do you promise to take care of Kaori? Eulogy of demise, shotgun chaos, disaster of disasters, reverse calamity.
Oh, okay, I get it. Just stop with the names already.
Do you promise to take care of Kaori?
I promise I won't treat her badly, at least.
That's good enough for me. I feel bad about tormenting you any more than this, but if you ever go back on your word, I swear I'll write a novel about you and spread it everywhere, both here and back home in Japan.
You're the actual last boss, aren't you? You're scarier than everything else.
I saw his head in his hand and kneeled at Shizuku's feet. Everyone else, Yue and the others included, trembled in awe. Shizuku had brought the almighty Hajime low with words alone. While Hajime was struggling with the traumas of his past, Aoi jogged back into view. Her eyes went wide in surprise when she saw Hajime on his knees before Shizuku. Interested in this terrifying girl, Yue asked Kaori about her. After reading the basic results of Shizuku, and explaining that Kaori was Yue laughed in the back. Kaori looked for Shizuku and muttered her thoughts. Making a conclusion, it was possible Shizuku was the next boss. They'd have to face the battle of Hajime's questions. With new questions to ponder, Yue and Kaori got ready to depart. Shizuku, Suzu, the rest of the girls, Nagayama, his companions, and Mel all came to see Hajime off at the town gate. Still not completely over the shock of Hajime's survival and his subsequent transformation, everyone awkwardly wished Hajime safe travels and thanked him again for saving them. Still, today's surprises weren't over. Their jaws dropped open again when Hajime put a breeze seemingly out of thin air. Thinking this was a good opportunity, Hajime pulled a sword out of his treasure trove and presented it to Shizuku. What's this?
You lost your old sword, right? I'm giving you a new one. You have it hard enough as it is. I'm giving you support. Now we lost back when you were
The blade too was jet black. In fact, it was so dark that it seemed to suck the light out of its surroundings. There were no markings on the hilt, and the blade had a slight curve to it. The whole thing was double-edged. It had a striking resemblance to one of Japan's most famous swords, the Kobaratsu Maru. Hajime wasn't very well versed in Japanese blades, but he had a lot of practice making a highly acclaimed weapons. He'd used his extensive computation experience to cover for any deficiencies, and used the manga he'd read as a reference for the basic training. Which made him as the first and started scoring his weakness, so if he learned two, they never break. Even the amateur could touch his field. That's for maintenance. Well, you know swords better than me, Yagashi. This is amazing. I guess you're still a synergist at heart. Thank you. I gladly accept it.
Get out!
The effortlessly struck in the air. Shizuku had no power to
The Bluetooth device is ready to pair.
낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 있는 여자 강남스타일 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 커피 한 잔에 여유를 아는 품격 있는 여자 밤이 오면 심장이 뜨거워지는 여자 그런 반전 있는 여자 너는 선호해 낮에는 너만큼 따사로운 그런 선호해 커피 식기도 전에 원샷 때리는 선호해 밤이 오면 심장이 터져버리는 선호해 그런 선호해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 Hey sexy lady 오빤 강남스타일 Hey sexy lady 성숙해 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 여자 이때다 싶으면 묶었던 머리 푸는 여자 가볍지만 웬만한 노출보다 야한 여자 그런 감각적인 여자 나는 선호해 점잖아 보이지만 놀 땐 노는 선호해 내가 되면 완전 미쳐버리는 선호해 근육보다 사상이 울퉁불퉁한 선호해 그런 선호해 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 아름다워 사랑스러워 그래 너 그래 바로 너 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 강남스타일 오빤 강남스타일 Hey sexy lady 오빤 강남스타일 Hey sexy lady 위는 너, 그 위에 나는 너 Baby baby 나는 뭘 좀 아는 너 위는 너, 그 위에 나는 너 Baby baby 나는 뭘 좀 아는 너 What I say 오빤 강남스타일 Baby baby 나는 뭘 좀 아는 너 What I say 오빤 강남스타일 sexy lady sexy lady 오빤 강남스타일
you could, I'd take you home with me.
Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para la alegría cosa buena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, que tu cuerpo para la alegría cosa buena. Dala tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, Macarena.
You don't you worry about my boyfriend, the boy who sees me, you don't know.